Most people think that if you do a workout and you get sore, it was a good workout. And I'm here to tell you, if you're still getting sore from your workouts, you're doing something wrong. And now that my contrarian intro is out of the way, let's talk about getting sore from workouts and what that means, why you shouldn't be getting sore, and what you can do about it. And there's three main reasons why you might get sore. The first reason is actually because you took a long gap, whether that means it was a few weeks or a few months or a few years or a few decades. It doesn't really matter how long it is. After a couple weeks or so, if you go back to literally any workout, even with the most moderate of intensity, you're gonna have some level of soreness, and only because your muscles are not used to doing the work. And then they get all this stress on them and they're like, oh, we're gonna break down a little bit, we're gonna be sore, but we're gonna recover and we'll be just fine. Maybe you'll have a couple weeks of soreness and then it eventually will go away. And this is really a pain to deal with, and this actually stops a lot of people from sticking to their routines long term, because they'll go to the gym, they'll go really hard, they'll get all this soreness, they're like, yeah, I got sore, I feel good, and then the DOMS really kicks in a couple days, the delayed onset muscle soreness like really kicks in on that day 2, and they're like, I don't like this all that much, and then they go back to the gym for a different muscle group, and that same experience happens 2 days later than that, and then they do another muscle group, the same experience happens a couple days after that, and then just like, you know what, this kind of sucks. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I getting sore so often? Maybe I'm just getting old. Maybe I shouldn't continue doing this, and then they drop off, and it's just a big mess. Doesn't have to be that way. There is a simple thing that you can do, which is, simply just stop quitting working out. Unrealistic in a lot of cases. There are some times where you just can't work out. But when you get back to it, go really easy. Just get the motions in very minimal. Like if you're doing 225 bench press and then you take 6 months off and you come back to it, don't try to do 225 or even 185. And in some cases, maybe not even 135. Just do the bar. And this might sound crazy, and a lot of people's egos can't handle it, but just doing the bar and the motion of the bench press is not a bad idea if you've taken a long time off, just to get the motion in, to minimize soreness, and then ramp up quicker than you would when you first started working out. Because you've already got that practice in, you already have that motion in. And if you are just not working, if this is your first time working out, you should be taking it easy. You need to learn the technique. So either way, on either end of the spectrum, you want to be going incredibly easy in the beginning, and then you can ramp up the weights pretty fast, session by session, and before you know it, you'll be up to heavier weights. This is actually what I've been doing right now. I've lifted considerably heavier weight than I am now, but I'm just ramping myself up slowly, and I haven't got a single bit of soreness in the last, 6 months of doing the home training, which I may be going a little bit too slow, and I should be going a little faster. So there is that balance too, but that's another time that we'll talk about all that kind of stuff. For the sake of now, just start slow, ramp yourself up, and build a routine that is sustainable around your lifestyle. There's no sense of working out 6 days a week if you legitimately cannot work out 6 days a week. If you can only fit in a legitimate 2 to 3 days per week, do a routine that's 2 or 3 days a week, whatever it might be for you. And that way you can actually stick to it and not get so sore that you want to just, stop working out and then have another gap and have to deal with that whole period all over again. So that's my solution for that. The second reason why people get sore is because they change exercises. They go from doing a flat barbell bench press for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of flat bench press. And I totally get that. That's the only real chest exercise that I can even do besides chest flies. So I get it. I get not wanting to do that same exercise forever. But there is something to be said about when you switch the exercise, no matter what you switch it to, if you switch to a dumbbell incline or a machine chest press, or maybe you do cable presses, which I would not necessarily recommend in most cases, but you switch the exercise up, you're gonna be sore no matter what. Even if you do way less weight, your muscles aren't used to that movement pattern. And the angle that you'd be pressing at, and this applies to all exercise, we're just using chest press for an example. Even if you switch to push-ups, if you haven't done push-ups in a long time, your muscles are not used to those movement patterns. Therefore, it's giving a slightly different stimulus to those muscles, and therefore soreness generally happens unless it's a very parallel movement, like you go from one machine press with a plate loaded thing to a machine press that's a stack, a selector stack. Maybe it won't be if it's the same brand, but in 90% of cases, 99.7 if we're gonna make up numbers on the spot, it's gonna have some level of soreness, but it only lasts for a week or two as you get used to that new movement, and then that goes away. So my solution to this is find an exercise you could do for a long time. See what you like and try to stick with that. Instead of rotating exercises all the time and trying to find out the best one, and you're like, oh, you watch some Instagram reel and it's like, oh, this one's really the best chest exercise. Oh wait, then you watch a YouTube video. No, this one's the most optimal chest exercise. Find one that you like, that you've been able to make progress with. Stick with that for I give everyone like a minimum of 6 weeks, unless it causes you some kind of pain that another exercise didn't necessarily cause you, and that pain does not go away quickly, like after one set of figuring it out or 2 sets of figuring it out. Okay, maybe change it a little bit earlier than 6 weeks, no sense of suffering. But you want to give these exercises a good block of time to really be able to make some kind of progress on that lift. And ideally, you stay with the lift considerably longer, so that way you can not only get stronger on it and do the lift better, but you can actually get good at the technique on that exercise. Even 6 weeks is a short time to get really good at a bench press, for example, or an incline dumbbell press. So give that time, and if you stick with those exercises for a long time, that soreness doesn't really pop up. Even if you go from doing pretty hard work to even harder work, like you really push yourself for some kind of PR, generally speaking, even that doesn't push you into soreness. So sticking with the same exercises is always a good idea. And that actually kind of leads into the third thing, which is going from mediocre effort to high effort. Because a lot of people, when I worked at a gym, when I managed a gym for several years, 2 different gyms, anyway, I noticed a lot of people would go in and they do the same workouts, very brief, same motions, they do the same machines, just that they do their rounds and then they go. It would be the same reps, the same weight. And there was even some people working with personal trainers that just refused to push themselves, and they just wanted to, kind of move their body a little bit and then go home. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Not everyone has to be a strength athlete. Not everyone has to be a bodybuilder. Not everyone has to want to have grand visions of being the strongest person they ever could be. However, what happens when you go from that mindset where you're just going in and going through the motions to you know what, I kind of want to build some muscle, or I kind of want to build some strength, and then you go ahead and put some effort in, you're going to be sore even with the same exercise. So it's I'm just going to do a set of 10, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to push this for as many reps as I can, really hard. And this almost contradicts what I was talking about before, but it also doesn't, because I've seen this happen where you go from 10 reps, but you really could do 15 or 18 or even 20, and then you go push it to that level. Your body's not even used to doing that many reps, so you kind of get gassed, which breaks down the muscle, and it leads to soreness because you're not used to working in that rep range or putting in that level of intensity and effort in. So when you go to going from 10 reps to 18 reps, you're gonna be sore. It's just gonna be the case. And this goes for the whole body too. So if you just kind of do those machine loops, which again, nothing wrong with that, but if you go to really push yourself, it's gonna help you get quite sore. So the solution to this one is get used to pushing yourself. Because if you just maybe add a rep here 1 week, the next week you add another rep, the next week maybe you just push it a little extra hard and add 2 reps, or maybe you add 5 pounds here, maybe the next week you add a rep or 2, the next week after that you add 5 pounds, just little incremental increases. Is that redundant? But little increases over time that just push yourself a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, instead of going from a not really trying to just really trying and having that big jump where you just one day decide to put all your effort in, and then you go back to the mediocre workouts because you're just I don't like the outcome of that because it hurt. So finding the balance between that and just slow progressions over time while you're working on technique, while you're getting stronger, and will result in building muscle through that approach. So the interesting thing with all of this is if you're on a good program, all this should be addressed already. All the programs that you ever do should focus on some level of getting good at the technique of the exercises, some level of progressive overload, some level of feeling the muscle work so that there's no surprise later, and some way that it can integrate with your lifestyle so you can actually stick to the program and not have to reset when you get burnt out and you think, oh, well, I didn't do my 5 workouts this week. I only did 3. Pretty much going to have to restart, but I'm going to take a week or 2 off and then get back to it when I have more time to do the 5 workouts. You don't want to get trapped in that mindset, which is incredibly common. So With all that said, hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully you found this insightful. Hopefully you no longer get sore, or at least minimize the soreness you get from workouts, because there are other factors too, like sleep, hydration, proper nutrition, all that kind of stuff that play a part too. But these are the big movers. So learn what you can from this. Again, hopefully you found it helpful. Go check out some of the other videos on my channel. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, anything, let me know in the comment section. I'd be happy to address those. Maybe make a whole video about them, because I've said this like 6 times now, but I do like making the Q&A style videos where I have a question and dive deep into that. So with all that said, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow.